and a teacher who were responsible for me achieving the success I've had in my life. The first was my teacher, Jane N.D. She is now Sister Mary Elizabeth, a marriage and family therapist in the Franciscan religion. I always tell people that it is so ironic that one of the greatest of influences on me, a nice Jewish girl, was a woman who became a nun. The other was a mentor whom I hold near and dear to my heart. His name is Henry Winkler. He may have been the Fonz on Happy Days or Coach Klein in The Water Boy, but to me, he's the coolest mentor in the world. One day when I was 12 years old, I was performing at the Center on Deafness in Northbrook, Illinois, and I was told that the most famous person in America, and it wasn't President Carter, was coming to pay a visit to our Performing Arts Center, and his name was Henry Winkler. I was over the moon. For so long, my parents gave me independence and encouragement and told me I could be whatever I wanted to be. And in my case, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be one ever since I was 7 years old. Now, here I was, about to meet somebody who did it for a living. So after my performance, I went right up to him and I said, "Hi, I'm Marlee. I will be an actor in Hollywood just like you." My bags were practically packed. I was ready to go. But just at the moment that Henry was about to tell me and give me some advice, my mother took Henry aside and asked him to carefully consider his words of encouragement, because she was concerned for my well-being. And she asked Henry if he could tone down his enthusiasm while giving me words of advice. She told him no one in Hollywood would give the chance for a young girl who was deaf an opportunity to succeed. So why would Henry want to encourage false hopes and dreams in a 12-year-old Marlee? What my mother didn't know was that Henry Winkler faced his own barriers growing up. As a young man, Henry's teachers called him stupid and said he would never amount to anything because he had difficulty reading. Even his parents called him dummer Hund, which in German means dumb dog. And it wasn't until many years later, when Henry's son had the same difficulties as he did, that Henry found out there was a name for what he and his son had. It was dyslexia. So, despite those teachers who said that he was stupid because he had problems reading, or those who tried to discourage him from achieving his dreams, becoming something he thought he could never be, Henry persevered with the same fervor that I had. And he simply walked around the barriers, all the while looking forward and never looking back. And eventually, Henry Winkler achieved dreams and became one of America's most beloved and well-known actors. So, there was Henry Winkler, listening to my well-meaning mother, nodding in this polite Henry Winkler way. And when she was done, Henry turned around, knelt down, looked me straight in the eye, and said forthrightly, "Marlee, you can be whatever you want to be. If you follow your heart, your dreams will come true. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." And 8.5 years later, I was standing on a stage with an Academy Award in my hands. But I have to admit, I hate the word but I have to admit that the moment that I should have been celebrating was soon bittersweet. Because the next morning, right there in the morning paper, was an article by a columnist by the name of Rex Reed. You might know who he is. He's the guy who recently said that Melissa McCarthy was tractor-sized and a hippo. Well, he wrote that my victory the night before the Academy Awards was the result of a pity vote. And he said that he questioned whether my Oscar was deserved, because as he stated, she's a deaf person in a deaf role, so how is that acting? And it was as if all my mother's fears were coming true. And for the first time in my life, I felt handicapped. And I almost would have given it up right there and said goodbye to Hollywood had it not been for that very important mentor in my life, Mr. Henry Winkler. Though everyone may have doubted my abilities or ready to put up barriers, even with an Oscar in my hand, Henry and his wife Stacy were one of the few people who encouraged me to look beyond the barriers. But this wasn't the first time they encouraged me. They kept in touch with me over the years after that first visit, sending me encouraging notes. They even sent me flowers when I did the stage production of Children of Lesser God in Chicago, before I did the movie. With no one in Hollywood who believed in me, they did. And they invited me to visit them in Los Angeles. When the door opened at the Winkler house, I shyly held out my Oscar like this. And you should have seen Henry and his wife's faces. They were beaming, grinning from ear to ear. Then Henry's expression changed. And it was as if he already knew about the negative reviews and the predictions about my career. And Henry looked me straight in the eye. And he said the same words he did 8.5 years ago. Marlee, sweetheart, you can be whatever you want to be. But this time, he added, you have something new. You're not finished yet. Not by a long shot. You have an Academy Award in your hand to prove it. Then, he did something I will never forget. Henry and Stacy asked me to stay for the weekend to think it over. 2 years later, Stacy Winkler was telling me to clean my room. Because I was the house guest who never left after that first weekend. Well, how could I? I had my own room, the rent was free, and Stacy Winkler made the best brisket west of Chicago. But in all seriousness, it was while I was living at the Winkler house that I learned a very important lesson. Nobody is perfect, and never give up. And whenever things got tough, or barriers in Hollywood seemed insurmountable, Henry would throw out his favorite quote that a fan had put on a big piece of metal which he hung in his office, and it said, "If you will it, it is not a dream. If you will it, it is not a dream." So, with that in mind, rather than wait for people, wait for things to happen, wait for offers to come in, I made things happen for myself. I met with film executives, some of them who never, ever met a deaf person before. And I formed my own production company, and I created parts for myself, some that weren't written as deaf, to show that I could come up with ideas too. I was determined to show them that despite the barriers that people thought were out there, I could do anything except here. Just like I. King Jordan said when he became president of Gallaudet University, who he was also deaf. Just a year after I won the Academy Award, I was invited back to present the Oscar for Best Actor. This time, I did it my way. I got a new look, I got a new boyfriend, and unlike the previous year where I only signed at the podium, I decided this time I would speak the names of the nominees because I wanted to show Hollywood that I have been signing and speaking all my life. So there I was on Oscar night saying the names of the 5 nominees. And I must have said the name right because the right person, Michael Douglas, came out to get his Academy Award. Today, it's been 26 years since that critic pronounced my career DOA, Death on Arrival. And I'm still here. I've done movies and I've done television. I got nominated for 4 Emmy Awards, and I even succeeded at reality television while I danced the cha-cha-cha while asking millions of viewers to read my hips on Dancing with the Stars. And I kept my cool when I competed with a crazy bunch of celebrities on Celebrity Apprentice. And by the way, I did something on Celebrity Apprentice that no one has done on network television. I raised $1 million in one day for charity for the Starkey Hearing Foundation in just one day. More recently, I'm proud to have joined a show that stars not just one deaf actor, me, but several actors who are deaf and hard of hearing. The show is called Switched at Birth, and it airs on ABC Family. And a few weeks ago, I was honored to have been part of a groundbreaking television event when Switched at Birth became the first ever TV show to broadcast an episode entirely in American Sign Language. I'm so proud of this awesome, awesome show. So how's that for never working again in Hollywood, Rex Reed? More importantly, 20 years ago this year, I married a wonderful man, and you guess where? On the front lawn of Henry Winkler's house. And today my husband and I have 4 beautiful children. 17, 12, 10, and 9. Boy, girl, boy. I feel very blessed. There are still barriers out there. But after all this time, I've learned just to laugh. Like the time I was on a television series when a network executive who was watching me work for a few minutes leaned over to the executive producer and said, you know, Marlee, Matlin is great. Is she going to be deaf for the whole show? Bless his heart. Or when I told Donald Trump on Celebrity Apprentice that I wasn't happy with Ms. Dionne Warwick because she had some old-fashioned prejudices when it came to deaf people, he asked me, well, you still respect her, Marlee, don't you, as a music legend? And I said, well, I don't know her as a music legend, Mr. Trump. And he was dumbfounded. And I said, no, Mr. Trump, I'm deaf. And he began to laugh because he finally got it. I wasn't the only one. But I think it was Dionne who laughed. Did she laugh? I think so. Maybe she did. Even on planes sometimes, I still get Braille menus. Braille menus. And I say, I'm not blind, I'm deaf. And sometimes it takes them a while to understand, you know? Sometimes when they finally realize it, I never see them for the rest of the flight. 4 times at least. Yes, lots of times. Oh. You know, despite the barriers that any of us face, I'm really convinced that we can achieve so much more if we look at the abilities that each one of us has, rather than dwell on perceived disabilities, as I said earlier. Because, at the end of the day, nobody is perfect. There is a wonderful bit of Jewish folklore that I think nicely sums up my philosophy of inclusion and overcoming barriers. And the story is called The Diamond. There once was a king who had a magnificent collection of jewels. He was especially in love with one great jewel in his collection, a perfect diamond. Each day, he would caress the diamond and gaze into its facets. He marveled at its perfection. But one night, a tragedy occurred. As he cradled the diamond in his sleep, it fell from his hands and onto the stone floor. The king was horrified. With trembling hands, he carefully picked up the diamond and stared into its interior. And there he saw a long, spindly crack from the very top of the diamond to the very bottom. The perfect diamond was forever ruined. The king grieved over the broken jewel, and the ministers of the king brought all sorts of experts to repair the diamond. But no one could. And all seemed lost until one little craftsman offered a solution. Give me the diamond for 1 week, and I will bring it back more perfect than before. Well, the king had no choice, and he handed his precious diamond to the little craftsman. When the week was over, the little craftsman returned. I have made the diamond once again perfect. But when the king lifted the diamond to the light, there was the long spindly crack running from the very top to the very bottom. The king was furious. It's still broken, he roared. Look again, said the little craftsman, and he turned the diamond over for the king. And there, at the bottom, where the crack met the point, was a tiny little indentation. The craftsman had carved a little rose. You see, said the craftsman, now instead of a long spindly crack, the diamond has the most beautiful rose. Now, it is not only more perfect, it is more brilliant and more unique than before. It's one of my favorite stories. Just as my parents and Henry Winkler did for me, anyone who faces barriers can have a chance to bloom into beautiful roses if they're given the chance to discover the hidden gifts within them. It's about listening to each other and listening to their hearts. For me, it's all about 3 simple words, and I'd love to teach them to all of you at Sign, if you wouldn't mind signing along with me. You ready? Get your hands warmed up. Put your cell phones down. Courage. Sign with me. Courage. Courage. Dreams. Dreams. Success. Success. Okay, you can stop signing now. Courage plus, no, stop signing. Stop signing. Courage plus dreams equals success. I think that's a formula that should be taught in every school across the land. For some, though they may think I live in a world of silence, silence, they should learn, is the last thing they'll ever hear from me. And I must remember that for every step I take towards my dreams, there are still unseen millions who still face barriers and who ache to achieve the same dreams. I hope you can remember that all of us deserve to dream and that nobody is perfect. Let's remember to embrace life and all that it has to give, despite how we are perceived. And in the end, we can all stand together and the reward will be spectacular. Thank you so very, very much. Very quiet. Even I can hear that. I think we have time for a question and answer. So if you guys want questions, there's a microphone there.